It's time to take control of the narrative and delete racial inequality in the workplace.
Hello, I'm Helena Morrissey, and I'm the founder of the 30% Club. And these days I chair the Diversity Project, which aims to improve diversity and inclusion across all dimensions in the investment and savings industry. Welcome to Reboot with Super BAMEs. It's an initiative that allows us to hear from inspiring ethnic minority leaders who are making a mark in the corporate world. We're sharing their stories to help control the narrative, to alter perceptions and biases, and to delete racial inequality in the workplace. Today, it's my very great honour to interview Mary FitzPatrick, Head of Diversity and Inclusion at NatWest Markets, and someone I first met about a decade ago when we were both working together on the 30% Club. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Helena.
You've had an amazing career and journey, especially, dare I say it, given that you are working in a sector that's so often seen as a white man's world. Can you tell us a bit about your journey? Give us a glimpse into who you are.
Thank you, Helena. My career has been quite interesting because I started as a journalist and then I moved into TV, and from there I moved into the world of film. I worked for the UK Film Council, and then from there I went to GE Capital. So quite a range of sectors, but at their heart was always a sense that it was important to be inclusive. And when I started as a film director, I didn't actively think to myself, oh, I need to think about diversity. I must have a black person, I must have a lesbian, I must have somebody who's disabled. I just automatically made films that were very diverse because I was always looking for people who had really interesting stories to tell, and different stories as well, because nobody wants to hear really boring stories. They want to sit and watch TV in the evening and think, gosh, that's fascinating, that really resonates with me. So my journey to banking was a very different one to most people, but by the time I got to banking, I had seen quite a lot around, in the film and TV industry. I would say that people can be quite jaded about diversity because there's a lot of cynicism in TV, because people are very definite about their views, they're very confident, and it's quite a hard agenda to push, but we did push very hard. And it's really exciting when you look back and you see some of the stuff that you got involved with, and for me it's really fantastic to see female presenters like Mary Beard having real prominence on the screen, and having being quite a trailblazer for the older woman as well, around being passionate and knowledgeable about her subject, the classics. So I am really happy working in financial services because it's challenging. There are times when the head of trading could say to you, Mary, we're never going to find any female traders. I'm sorry, they just don't exist. And I'm a bit of a terrier. My husband always says that I could be a Jack Russell if I was a dog. And I always go away and think, I'm going to prove you wrong. I am going to get some talent mapping going on. I'm going to work with the talent acquisition team, and we're going to find some fantastic women who will make a difference to your business and will bring a diversity that you don't currently have. And we have done that. So, for me, D&I is a fantastic sector to work in, because in a way I always think of my role as being a minister without portfolio. I can poke my nose in wherever I like if I have goodness in my heart and the desire to see only the right thing being done.
Fabulous. Well, now you're a trailblazer and you are doing so much to help improve diversity and inclusion. But of course, over the past year, there's been a huge amount of discussion about inherent racism and systemic bias in society. Have you experienced that? Do you think that it has a bearing on racial discrimination in the workplace?
I think there are inherent practices that make people feel belittled. I know myself, when I was working in TV, I was standing outside a prominent TV executive's office, and he came out and he said to me, "Oh, are you here to clean the coffee stains on my carpet?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And he came out 3 times and asked me that question. The last time he said, "Are you absolutely sure?" And it sort of became an obsession. And I bumped into him 2 or 3 days later, and I sort of slightly cornered him and said, "Look, this is not fair. You are incredibly biased. Every black woman you see is not automatically a cleaner. And even if they are, there's nothing wrong with that. That's for their choice. but I am not a cleaner. And I know that you would not have asked a white woman standing outside your office the same question. So I want you to think about that. And it still gives me pleasure that all these years later, if I see him, he goes very pink, and for good reason. So I think that there are behaviours that people are not proud of. But I think that, you know, with all that has gone on this year, now it is a time for change, because people should be thinking more about how their behaviours affect each other, and listening and understanding what can we do, how can we be allies, how can we start those uncomfortable conversations and support people.
So besides listening more intensely and carefully and building our understanding, what 2 or 3 actions do you think we should be taking to improve the situation in society and in banking?
I think it's about standing tall and being absolutely sure about what is the right thing to do. When you look at what's going on with Sainsbury's at the moment, an advert they have out, which is so wonderful and so warm, and it's really about gravy. But the family who are involved in it are a black family, and there's been a real black backlash, or even a backlash, around this advert. And it makes you realise that, you know, we feel that we're making and promoting change, and that, you know, everybody is thinking one way, but actually that's not the truth. There are a lot of people in society who are not comfortable with seeing black people on television. They're not comfortable with black people being used to promote a brand. And I feel very proud, in a way, of Sainsbury's, that their values have come to the fore, and they have stood up and said this is the right thing to do, and we support it, and we're not taking it off the screens. So I think that it's really important to be really confident around your own voice. And I've done that through reading books, you know, from meeting people. I had a conversation recently with a couple of black historians, and it was absolutely fascinating about what is the legacy of Black Lives Matters. I think we need to educate ourselves, and we need to educate others, and we need to be confident.
Well, Mary, I think that standing tall, being brave, being confident, these are all characteristics, qualities that I associate very much with you. You are super successful. You are very senior in your industry, a super BAME, as we're calling it in this Reboot series. But what advice would you give to other ethnic minority professionals, and particularly to young people who are now just entering the workplace?
I think that it's important to know yourself and to know who you are and what you stand for. I think that's really important, and to be independent in your thinking. You know, unconscious bias lives with all of us, and it may be that your values don't match those of your family, and your family's values make you feel uncomfortable. But you need to know what you believe in and what you're willing to support and speak out on. So I do think that it's really important now, with the murder of George Floyd, to actually be brave and bold, and to, you know, to stand up and say, I think that's wrong, I think that's impolite. You know, the other day I was at a dinner, and someone was saying to me, oh, you've got lovely skin, and then the person sitting next to me said, yeah, well, black don't crack. And I said to him, you know what, you can't say that. This is a white person. I can say it, but I wouldn't, because that would be incredibly big-headed. But you can't say that, and I am offended. And he immediately said, oh, I'm really sorry, Mary, I didn't mean to offend you. And I said, I know you didn't, but I'm calling you out because I don't ever want you to say that to anyone again. So I'm just using that as an example of something so simple that can be offensive, and you mull it over and you think about it. But I say, punch back, come back to that person and say, that didn't work for me, and these are the reasons why.
Stand up for yourself. What fantastic advice, Mary. Thank you. Now, thank you so much as well for sharing your personal experiences with us, and including some of the setbacks that have in some ways contributed to where you've got to today. It's been truly inspiring, and frankly, it makes me extra determined as an ally. I've been reflecting on some of the success factors that we enjoyed in the 30% Club, which I think you'll probably agree, Mary, went a bit beyond the results that we had anticipated. But of course, although it was successful, we have seen many more women on UK company boards. It has also not gone far enough. We still have very few black women on UK boards, very few black people, very few ethnic minorities at all. So I've come to see this as very much the beginning, not the end. And I'm determined as an ally to keep working towards equality in the workplace. So thank you so much for inspiring me to do just that. And us all, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena.
It's time to reboot with superhero Black, Asian and minority ethnic professionals redefining the corporate world.